Wow guys, I'm really enjoying this vibe. Wide open area with mountains surrounding you. This is the best view of the trip. So my parents are going to pick us up after we hike through this Mungyeong Saejae. Oh, so many hikers. Wow, look at that. I guess you're supposed to walk barefoot to be hardcore. You see this mascot here? There is actually an interesting story behind this road. Korea is a very Confucius country, and Confucius countries, generally they reward people by having you take government tests, and whoever passes it qualify to get government posts. It's not done solely based on your parents having that position, or number two, just simply being rich, or number three, just having, the most amount of strength. So Korea used to have a lot of scholars back in the Joseon dynasty, and the scholars that were in the North Gyeongsang province and like the Jeolla province, not in Seoul, would have to travel almost like a month just to go take these government tests so that they can qualify to be a bureaucrat. So this is a pathway that these scholars would take. That's why you see Chinese characters and such. That's like a poem. And this is the kind of hats that they used to wear. Anyways, this is the newly paved road that is running alongside the older, authentic roads that these humbies or scholars used to travel on to take the test. Okay, looks like we came to the Yetkil, or the old roads. The original ones that they used to travel on. Sure, this waterfall landscaping though is pretty new, but still fantastic. Wow, the water is super clean. People say that when they come to Korea, their skin gets whiter because the water is so clean here. Maybe there's some truth to it. But a lot of interesting facts. Back in the days, they would have these great walls, sort of, and you would only have one access point into Seoul. So this is one of those areas where access to Seoul was limited, heavily guarded by soldiers. But at the same time, on the way up there, these mountains would have a lot of bandits. So on the bottom of the hill, they would have a lot of these inns and taverns where the Sunbis would sleep and then gather around in the morning to travel as a group. All right, guys, we are at the first of the 3 gates that guard the pathway to the bureaucracy tests. Wow, so it's actually a hell of a lot more significant than that. To summarize, it was the main area that separated Gyeongsang-do province with Seoul. Also strategic in that the 2 generals, when they were attacking Seoul, converged here. And so significant that when the Korean general retreated, not being able to protect this gate, he had to create another gate. Now, this might not be very easy for someone from America, where it's all plains, to visualize why a pathway or a road is significant in Korea. But Korea is basically all mountains, guys. So there's only a few, legit pathways for troops and military to travel through. They want to get to the heart of Korea, which was in Seoul, located centrally. For the most part, it's like Spartacus for hundreds of years, because you have these narrow pathways and they can just defend. So Koreans were, military-wise, the masters of defense. Wow, look at this, guys. What, you see this pine tree? Basically, during the Japanese occupation, they were running out of fuel towards the end. So they had like the local villagers cut into here, and I think it's a sap or something. but they were able to use that as fuel. So amazing, look at that. So, all these trees. I had no idea that 소나무 was a fuel source. As you walk along the main path, you'll continually see the old historical route crisscross, and you have an opportunity to walk it. It seems more scenic, but definitely a lot more strenuous than this nicely well-paved open path. You see how rocky and jagged that road is? Back in the days, Koreans used straw attached woven types of shoes, and they would have to carry multiple shoes on their back for that 1 month trip because their shoes will wear out before they can even make it to Seoul. Anyways, continuing walking. I will have to say though, I was sweating, and right now it's actually very cool because we're continuously walking under these trees, and then the cool streams, they're all over. Not only does it sound refreshing, but I think the cool temperature of the streams somehow are transferring onto the breeze. I mean, if you're from California like me, like our best hiking trails are like out in the middle of the beach or in the desert like Joshua Tree, and you're gonna sweat your butt off. If I had something like this in California, I would do it all the time. We are at the second gate. This one, it looks like we can climb up it. I spoke too soon. No entry. But we do get to play some traditional Korean games, equivalent to horseshoe games. Traditionally, Koreans would use real arrows. This game is called two-hole in Korean. Heading on to the last gate. So we aren't making any rest stops, but they do have some amazing ones on the way. So if you don't want to rush through it like in 2 hours, I recommend that you come here earlier and make it like a whole day event and take a lot of these rest breaks. They're fantastic. Oh, it looks so beautiful and peaceful right now. But another trivia about these humvees. They say that it was very hard to pass the government exams in Korea. Apparently, out of hundreds and thousands of people that take it, there's only usually like a handful that pass, like 10 of them. And to even get like a nice post, like a governor, etc., you have to go through 3 different levels of testing, where at the final one, you actually even take a test right in front of the king. But to do that, you have to make countless of trips up here, and most people are failing and walking back to their homes for a month in their tails tucked between their legs. Sort of explains Koreans' culture of how heavily they study and how competitive things are. I mean, it's just been like that for hundreds and thousands of years here. Wow, this area's got a stream there and a waterfall up here, and if you look, it goes way up to the very top. Oh man, I haven't really said anything. Just taking B-roll after B-roll because the sights are enough. No words required. The elders were asking me, Korea's awesome, huh? I'm like, yeah, it's really great. And they're telling me, you know, all their friends that decided to go immigrate to America, you know, back when they were in their 30s and such, they're all saying the same thing, and they're like, oh, I should have just stayed in Korea. Okay, so it's almost sunset now. Man, I wish I could really translate this vibe onto the camera, but this golden sunlight shooting through the trees, this vibe. So I was asking, can anybody be a 선비 or a scholar? Well, apparently you couldn't. So it wasn't all just straight up, brain ability. And of course, just like right now, some people are privileged. They get to just not worry about working, so they can dedicate 100% of their effort into studying, which was the case back then too. But you had like 3 main classes in Korea. The Yangban, which is like the top. They're already high-end officials. And you had a middle class. And they're generally like the farmers and the merchants and the people that, do blacksmith, etc. And then you had the lowest of the lowest. And they were pretty much equivalent to slaves. Like they worked for the Yangbans as sort of like slaves. And they had butchers. They were considered like the lowest of the lowest for some reason. Although now it's just like a regular trade. But back in the day, butchers were like maybe even lower than slaves. It was a very bad line of work back then. And last of all, the people that, I don't know if you've seen it, but Korea has this thing where they get demon possessed and they're dancing around and such. We call it mudang. People who engage in that kind of religion were also the lowest of the lowest. So if you're on the very bottom class, you did not qualify to take the government test. Even if you could pass it, doesn't matter. Just your class alone excluded you from it. But it's very rare that you would even be able to pass it even if they gave you an opportunity, which they later did in the end of the Joseon dynasty. Because traditionally, even though the middle class qualified to be 선비s, only like the upper middle class people generally qualify, because there's a lot of time and resources that are required to study to pass this government test. Because back in the days, it was really hard to study even just the language, because Koreans were using Chinese. And if you know, Chinese is ridiculously hard. There's so many characters that you gotta memorize. Then you gotta memorize all these poems and such. And it was just really, really hard. That's why one of the greatest achievements Koreans think of is creating the Korean language, because that allowed pretty much everybody an ability to read. Okay, check this out, guys. They engraved something into the rocks here. I'll need to defer to the teacher. So this is Joseon era tagging, bro. This is how they kept it. So this is apparently a famous politician and says that he was a great ruler. Apparently it's very common for these big rocks and pillars to be erected, being declared as a great ruler and such. You really don't know if they were a great ruler though, because it might not have been the villagers, but it could have been themselves, like just saying, hey, I'm the shit. But that one's unique because it's actually engraved into a stone into the wall. And look at this. Here's an example of the kinds of houses the locals would used to live in around this region. Poor people, because it's straw thatched roofs. And look at that. That's like a well. I've never seen them make it out of wood like that, like a log cabin. And even back in the days, they had a Korean barbecue spot. Just kidding. But they have these little pagodas. You'll see them all over Korea because in the summer, it gets super humid. And if you stay inside, the breeze isn't flowing. So it gets super humid and sticky. So they like to stay outside. Wow, guys, look at this. Apparently, they shot a very famous drama called Wangan, along with many other Korean historical dramas in this location here. Right now, it's closed, but another thing you can visit on your trip out here. All right, about 2.5 hours of just walking. We've reached where it looks like it's sort of a clearing. The main entrance to that drama park located over there. Nobody's at the ticket office. I think you can just enter free if you wanted to. We've come to the final gate. This is actually gate number 1, but we walk backwards. I'm hoping that the end is near. Ah, this is my favorite gate. It's just super wide. The Lord of the Rings type of feel. I feel like Jon Snow facing off against a horde of icemen about to attack me. I think if you don't want to walk 2.5 hours, definitely come to gate number 1 here. Lots of open fields here. You can do a picnic. So nice. So we're not done yet. Apparently there's 2 routes back to the parking area. We don't want to take this boring road. We're gonna cross the bridge and take a more scenic route. I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but this place is amazing. I love it. Check this out, guys. There's another traditional home over there. And we're gonna take this little path right along this creek on this wooden pathway. They look like little kids. Okay, looks like they got, I think that's a museum right there. I'm not gonna be going there, but I'm also impressed with this. They have free storage for you. I mean, it's just completely free. They put keys in here, you can lock it up, take it out, and travel. Let's say you come here on a bus or something and you don't want to carry things. That's amazing. They say don't do it over a week. Not even 24 hours. A week. Who the heck is gonna need to put stuff in there for a week? But it's just good to know you can. Ooh. Okay, actually that is definitely a museum on like something traditional. Like it says old school. 옛길 박물관. Old road. So it's probably some OG 박물관. And sorry, I'm not putting the hat right because I'm sweating. But man, the facilities here are just fantastic. And by the way, it's completely free. I paid $0 to get in here. My parents paid $0 to come in here. I think they might have had to pay for parking, but let me double check on that. Ingenious. You can also use it if you're hot. They actually have an electric shuttle for those of you who don't want to walk. You pay 1,000 won for it. All right. Now we're at the more gentrified area. So they tell me there is a very small fee to park, but they found free parking in the back. Enjoy one of the best sights, hikes, trails, all at the expense of Korean taxpayers. This is just, it's amazing. I can't believe how they're able to upkeep this. We will add to this economy here, however, by going to a restaurant. Okay. All right. But I'm impressed with the designs. This marinated pork. It's glistening. This place is not bad. Looks like it's about $10 per person for set menu. But they have a variety of delicious acorn and hodok, vegetable pancakes, etc. A root, not meat. Very healthy for you. That also comes along with bean paste soup, rice, and all the side dishes included in that price. We never really go to a bad restaurant. This restaurant, likewise, is great. I will point out the one thing that really sticks out here is that flame broiled type of, or we say fire taste. I don't know how they got it to get that smoky flavor, but definitely worth a visit out here. Doing the wrap with the root, very unique. Something that you're not gonna have every day out here in Korea. We ate so much, it looks like they'll be stopping business because there's no more ingredients. It's Saejae 할매집. Sorry about the quick wrap up in the end, but I'm super tired. There was just so much to see. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I feel very fortunate that my dad has friends that are willing to take me along and educate me and show me all these different amazing sites that I would have never thought about or known about if I was to research this on my own. Definitely comment and share. It really means a lot to me because this isn't a viral video, guys. No one is going to be searching for Mungyeong Saejae, so all your help, all your interaction on my videos, they go a long way. Whatever the case, hope you stay safe and positive during COVID, and I'll see you guys again in a few more days for more amazing places and foods from Korea.